everybody, it's Rich again here from Electric Classic Cars, and it's time for a Testarossa to Teslarossa update. So what have we got in store for you? Well, in episode 3 we've got masses of progress to show you, and we've got a little bit left turn, and we've decided to keep the engine. Not really. I just wanted to show you on this car, because don't forget we've got 4 Testarossas to convert to electric. On this car, I wanted to show you the engine in here and how busy it is, because we've got obviously on the Testarossa I'm going to show you, we've taken all that out and we're fitting this in. So the Tesla motor's down here, and if I just let that go back down. So that's the Tesla motor, that's the Testarossa motor, and for those that believe in ghosts, apparently there's a soul in there. So that's 422 kilos of weight, and that is around about 125 kilos of weight. But obviously that, huge amounts of power and torque, and that makes noise. So if you follow me now over to the Testarossa that we're working on, I can show you what we've been up to. Ta-da! Fabrication guys have been busy. So that's mainly what this episode is going to be about, I think, is showing you the fabrication guys' work, because they're coming to the end of their bit, if you like, and the electrical guys that are taking over. So we've got our mock-up motor in there. I mean, this is just a wrecked Tesla motor. It's not the actual one we're going to be using in this car, but we've slung it in there just to make sure the mounts are all fine and dandy. But if you come in closer to him, we'll go through some details. Right, the aim of the game with all of our conversions is to make them bolt in. So we want to reuse the engine mounts, which are there, and there, and any other mounts or bolt-in locations to be able to put in things like the battery box and the motor. So what we've done is essentially created a cradle that the battery box or main battery box and the motor mount to. So that's what we've got here. It's actually a 2-piece system. So essentially you've got the lower section here, which goes all the way underneath the battery box, and that kind of mounts the battery box. So the battery box goes in first, and then once that's in and located and bolted in, then the top cradle, which is this bit here, which then holds the motor in place, then gets hoisted in place and bolted on top. And it all bolts into the 1, 2, 3, 4 engine mounts, and another 2 mounting points down there, which are just original Ferrari mounting points. And I'd say in half an hour you've got essentially your main battery pack and your Tesla motor in. One thing of note here, in the last episode I kind of had the motor over this way, but what we've found is essentially this bit of metal there and that box section there were hitting that piece on the motor and that piece on the motor. And if you follow me over here, you'll see why we flipped it over. Now, one of the problems we found when we put the Tesla motor into the Ferrari is the subframe is kind of coming down like this, and it's right in the wrong place, because over here we've got a coolant port, and over here we've got the Molex connector. So, and if you notice, the bottom of the Tesla drive unit is actually wider because of that than the top. So the solution we had was to actually flip the motor on its back. So this essentially comes over this way, which means that the protruding bits are at the top now, which is fine because it kind of comes up like that. But equally, there's another advantage, which is we've moved the distribution or weight distribution further forward, which is always good in a performance car. So, and as I said before, it doesn't matter that a motor is on its back or upside down, so that's fine. The inverter that's in there, that doesn't matter which orientation that's at either. So all that we've got to sort out is the fact that the oil is now at the top, where normally it would sit here. So we've got to just adjust where the oil pickup is coming from. But I think that's an easy fix rather than cutting and shutting and welding a Ferrari chassis, which is a big no-no. So that's the solution we've come up with. So there we go, that's the motor in, and as you can see I've got enough space down there now with this box section to be able to get my hand in, so that's plenty of space. this is the main battery pack, and we've got a 64 kilowatt and actually 65 kilowatt hour battery pack going in this, and most of it is hidden here, the rest of it's in the front, which I'll show you in a minute. And we've got all the electrical connections on here, so you've got your main service disconnect, you've got your high voltage there, which I'm pretty sure is going to the front battery pack. That one over there is going to the CCS socket, and then this one here will probably be going off to the motor because it's on this side. There's your high voltage coming out there, so that's likely going to be going up that way. And if you're wondering what all these are here, well, these are high voltage twin core plugs, so this will probably be something like heater, charger, DC to DC converter, and that's probably your air conditioning pump. There you go, I remember them all. So there you go, all the electrical connections are there, and the electrical guys are getting their teeth into the build now because the fabrication guys are kind of coming to the end of their mission on this one. Down here, we've also put in the radiators. So we've got one radiator there in the original location for the radiators, but one is in here for the motor and inverter, and another one exactly the same over there for the battery thermal management. So another battery cooling system over there. So I think that's pretty much it in the engine bay. And I've just spotted something else I need to show you. So I'll close this now and I'll show you where we put the charge port. Right, so charge port wise, we've obviously put it in the same location as the petrol filler, but you're probably wondering, why is it at a jaunty angle? Well, we've got, I'll explain that in a minute, but in that we've got 7 kilowatt AC and 150 kilowatt peak DC, so CCS charging, and it just fits in there lovely. But it's at a strange angle, so let's explain why. Well, obviously, we've got to work within the confines of the original car. And if I lift the engine bay up and have a look at the other side, you'll see what we mean by working within the confines. So have a look over here. So around at this side, you can actually see the problem that we had to overcome on the other side. Because we can't go through there with the charge socket, because that's going into the inside of the car. And this bar here, that's part of the actual space frame of the car. So the only space we had was kind of down there. So that's why we ended up having the charge socket at such a jaunty angle. It was tight, but it fits. So that was the solution. So in the interior, what we've done, well, we've upgraded the steering with an EPAS system. So we put an electric power assisted steering system in, an off-the-shelf upgrade from a company called Easy Power Steering in the Netherlands, and they do right-hand drive and left-hand drive upgrades for the Testarossa because it's quite a heavy steering, and I found that out in episode 1. And the fact that there's already upgrade kits available, and they've sold quite a few apparently, talking to the guys, I felt it's a good upgrade to put on this car, especially because we're putting a battery pack up front, which isn't going to be a huge amount of weight compared to what was there, but it's certainly going to be a bit more weight because we are kind of moving the weight a little bit further forward because the weight distribution that we found when we weighed the car was heavily biased to the rear. So it's a good thing that we got a bit more weight over the front axle, but that heavy steering when it was petrol is going to be made even worse with a bit more weight up front. So power assisted steering is a good thing. But as far as how this works is it only kind of comes in to assist on lower speeds around town when you're parking. And when you're up above about 10 miles an hour, it goes back to how a normal manual steering system is. So you've still got all that feel when you're driving it at pace on the road. So I think that's it inside here so far. So let's have a look at what we've done in the front. Now, getting right up to date now, because this is kind of where we're working at the moment on the front battery box design. It's kind of in there, and I'm not completely happy with it yet because, if I get my tape measure out, although it fits nice and snug in there, and it keeps the system really simple with just a rear pack and a front pack, it's kind of losing about 6 inches of luggage space in the front. So I'm contemplating, and I haven't broken it to the fabrication guys yet, but I'm contemplating taking the top layer of batteries out of this and getting it right the way down to the original luggage floor height and then putting the batteries that I've taken in a different place, which I'll show you in a minute. But while I'm here, I wanted to show you some of the cables, because the electrical guys have started running the high voltage cables, which is usually the first thing they get their teeth into is, you know, where can we route the cables? And on this car, it was kind of a conundrum because we didn't really want to, you know, cut big holes and go through into the bodywork or anywhere. But we've reused essentially a bit of tubing that goes all the way through the car, which I think it must have had some kind of loom or something going through it, but there's a tube like that goes all the way through the car, and the guys have managed to get the cabling in a conduit that goes all the way through, which is fantastic. But while I'm here, you can see how these cables are constructed. So if you zoom in here now, Tim, you'll see that these are double insulated and also shielded, so there's a bit of metal there as well. And you've got the main core here, that's a 70mm core cable, so that's the main high voltage cable. So there we are with the front, and now I just kind of want to show you what my thinking is as to where I want to put some of these batteries. So follow me. So I'm underneath the car now, and you can get a feeling for what I'm thinking, because there's a load of dead space here where the fuel tanks used to be, and obviously this is seats that way, the main battery pack's there, but all this dead space, and it's low down in the car, and my thinking is if we just half the size of that battery pack in the front and put the battery modules here, I think it'll be a good thing, because weight distribution will be nice and low. We'll get a bit more luggage space, or back to the original luggage space that was in the front. The only complexity to that is that they will then have 3 battery packs rather than 2, so it's a bit more complicated, but I think it'll be worth it. And on the subject of luggage, I've got another cunning plan as well, so follow me upstairs and I'll show you. Right, now with sitting in the original engine bay, you get a feeling for probably what my cunning plan is, because this is pretty much dead space. I mean, we've got the motor in the battery pack, there's nothing really else to put in here. And my thinking is, well, let's make the Testarossa even more practical and get a bigger boot in. So I'm thinking we'll fabricate something over the top here and down here to make this into a nice sizable boot. So we'll have the front, or the frunk as the Americans call it, and then a luggage space in the rear as well, or a boot as we like to call it in the UK. So there we go. I think we'll have a very practical and very, very fast Testarossa by the end of this project. Now, the last thing I want to show you in this episode is the badge. We've got the Teslarossa badge sorted. So look at that. I mean, you've got to have a keen eye to see the difference there. So there we go. Now, on the last episode of the Testarossa to Teslarossa, we asked people, where are you all from out there? And we were blown away, weren't we, Tim?
We had nearly 900 replies, 900 comments, people telling us where they were from around the world.
Where were they from? Can you remember?
All around the planet. I couldn't believe it. USA, Canada, Malaysia, Australia, Caribbean, everywhere.
They all
Europe.
seem to be hotter and warmer than where we are in Wales. And where we are in Wales, it's very rural here. It's mid-Wales, which is short for middle of nowhere Wales, because, you know, if you ever look at mid-Wales on a map, it's kind of the dark bit in the middle where I don't think the satellites have ever...
It's where the dragons live.
It's where the dragons live, exactly. So it's amazing to think that in our little corner of Wales here, in our man cave, there's people all around the world watching what we do, which is fantastic. So hello to you all. So in this episode, I kind of want to ask, 2 questions really. One thing that we've learned by, converting all sorts of classics over the years is, the word sacrilege in a number of different languages, like sacrilegio in Italian, for instance. What's sacrilege in your language out there? So I want to know, we want to learn the word sacrilege in different languages, because I just think that's funny. But mainly, I want to know what other supercars out there, classic supercars, do you think would benefit from the electric treatment? Because there's a number of classic supercars out there that looked fantastic, but when you drove them, it wasn't really backed up, or the driving experience wasn't backed up by the looks, if you like. So, what other supercars of yesteryear do you think are worth electrifying? So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.